Part 1. The midnight call. I woke up at exactly 2:13 a.m. to the sound of my bedroom door quietly clicking shut. First, I thought I had imagined it. At 62, sleep doesn't come as easily as it used to. Some nights, I lie awake for hours listening to the house breathe, the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the faint creak of old wood settling into itself. But that night, something felt different. I reached out instinctively, my hand sliding across the empty space beside me. Arthur wasn't there. Now, in most marriages, that wouldn't mean much. A glass of water, a late-night snack, a restless walk around the house. After 35 years together, you learn not to question every small movement. But I knew my husband. Arthur had always been a creature of habit. He went to bed at 10:30. He slept on his right side, and once he fell asleep, he didn't wake up until morning. Not once in 35 years had I ever found his side of the bed cold in the middle of the night. I sat up slowly listening. First there was nothing. Then a voice. Soft, low, almost careful. It was coming from down the hallway. From his study. That stopped me. Arthur's study was always locked at night. Always. He used to joke that it was the only place in the house that still belonged to him. A quiet corner filled with old financial records, dusty books, and the leather chair he refused to replace. He never took calls in there. He never even went in there after dinner. But now, I could hear him speaking. I slipped out of bed, careful not to make a sound, and stepped into the hallway. The house was dark, except for a faint line of light beneath the study door. I shouldn't have listened. After 35 years of marriage, trust becomes something automatic. You don't question it. You don't test it. You just live inside it. But something in the tone of his voice made my chest tighten. It wasn't the words. Not yet. It was how he sounded. Gentle. Almost tender. But not in the way he spoke to me. I moved closer, my bare feet silent against the hardwood floor. And then I heard it. Clear enough that there was no mistake. "Don't worry," Arthur whispered. "She doesn't suspect anything." My hand froze on the wall beside me. There was a pause. I couldn't hear the other person, only the faint murmur of a voice on the other end of the line. Arthur exhaled softly, like he was trying to calm someone down. "Just wait until after the anniversary," he continued. "Once it's done, the money will be ours." The anniversary. Our anniversary. 35 years. The words didn't hit me all at once. They settled slowly like cold water sinking into my bones. She doesn't suspect anything. The money will be ours. I stood there in the dark hallway, staring at the thin strip of light under the door, and for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize my own husband's voice. There was something in it I had never heard before. Not love, not guilt. Something sharper. Something calculated. I should have opened the door. I should have walked in and demanded an explanation. That's what most people would do. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped back. Quietly. Carefully. Like someone retreating from the edge of something they weren't ready to see. I returned to the bedroom, slid back under the covers, and lay there staring at the ceiling. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was listening. Waiting for him to come back. It took another 7 minutes. I counted them. When Arthur finally walked in, he moved the way he always did, slow, deliberate, trying not to wake me. He slipped into bed beside me, the mattress dipping slightly under his weight. For a moment he didn't move. Then he let out a quiet breath. And I realized something else. He thought I was asleep. I kept my breathing steady. Even. Controlled. After a few minutes he rolled onto his side, facing away from me. Just like always. Except nothing felt the same anymore. The space between us, just a few inches wide, suddenly felt like something much larger. Something I couldn't cross. Something I didn't understand. I lay there until morning, staring into the dark, replaying his words over and over again in my mind. Not questioning them. Not trying to explain them away. Just remembering. Because somewhere deep down I already knew something had changed. Not that night. Not even recently. Whatever this was, it had been happening for a long time. I just hadn't seen it. And that was the part that scared me the most. Because if I hadn't seen this, what else had I missed? "I'm glad you're here," Stay with me until the end of this story, and tell me where you're watching from, because what I discovered after that night didn't just change my marriage, it made me realize that for 35 years, I had been living inside a life that was never entirely mine. That was the night I stopped trusting what I thought I knew, and started paying attention to everything I didn't. Part 2. The morning after Arthur was already awake when I opened my eyes. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, the kind of quiet, ordinary light that usually made our home feel safe, familiar, predictable. But that morning, everything felt slightly off. He was sitting at the edge of the bed, tying his shoelaces, calm, unhurried, just like every other day, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't stood in the dark hallway at 2 in the morning, listening to him promise someone else that I didn't suspect anything. For a moment I just watched him. 35 years. That's how long I had known this man. Long enough to recognize the smallest shift in his tone, the slightest change in his routine. And yet, sitting there looking at his back, I realized something unsettling. I wasn't sure I knew him at all. "Morning," he said, without turning around. His voice was steady, warm even, exactly the same. I forced myself to respond normally. "Morning." My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. I sat up slowly, pulling the blanket around my shoulders, giving myself a few extra seconds to study him without being obvious. No tension in his shoulders. No hesitation in his movements. If he was hiding something, he was very good at it. Or maybe he had been doing it for so long that it no longer felt like hiding. I chose my words carefully. "Did you get up last night?" It was a simple question. Neutral. Casual enough to pass as nothing. Arthur paused for just a fraction of a second. Then he turned to look at me. There it was. That same face I had trusted for decades. Soft eyes. Relaxed expression. Completely at ease. "I slept like a rock," he said with a small smile. "Why? Did you have one of those restless nights again?" I held his gaze. Just for a second longer than usual. Waiting. Watching. But nothing changed. No flicker of concern. No sign that he had just lied to my face. "I thought I heard something," I said lightly. "Maybe I was dreaming." He let out a quiet chuckle. "You and those dreams," he replied. "You always imagine the strangest things." And just like that, it was gone. Rewritten. Erased. Not the conversation. Not the words. But the reality of it. He didn't deny it directly. He didn't argue. He simply replaced it. And somehow that felt worse. Because it meant this wasn't new. This was practiced. I nodded, as if I believed him. As if I wanted to believe him. "Maybe," I said. Arthur stood up, adjusting his shirt as he walked toward the door. "I'll make coffee," he added. "You should get some rest. You didn't sleep well." The concern in his voice sounded real. That was the part that made my stomach tighten. Because if he could lie like that, if he could look at me and speak with that same gentle tone, then how many other moments had I accepted without question? How many times had I chosen comfort over clarity? I waited until I heard his footsteps fade down the stairs before getting out of bed. The house felt different now. Not louder, not quieter, just unfamiliar. Like walking through a place you've lived in for years and suddenly noticing things you've never seen before. I moved slowly, almost instinctively, as if I didn't want to disturb whatever truth had started to surface. In the bathroom mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Same silver strands of hair. Same tired eyes. But something had shifted. Not outside. Inside. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't trying to make sense of what I heard. I wasn't asking if it was real. It was real. And that meant one thing. I needed to stop listening to what Arthur said and start paying attention to what he did. The kitchen smelled like fresh coffee when I walked in. Arthur stood by the counter scrolling through his phone. He looked up and smiled. "There you are," he said. "I made your favorite." I nodded, taking the mug he handed me. Our fingers brushed briefly. 35 years of small, familiar touches. And yet, I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt too much. Too many questions. Too many possibilities. I sat down at the table across from him. And for the first time in our marriage, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man I needed to understand. He kept his phone in his hand longer than usual. That was the first thing I noticed. Arthur had never been particularly attached to his phone. He used it when necessary, then set it aside. But now, he checked it, unlocked it, locked it again, repeatedly, almost like he was waiting for something, or someone. Big plans today? I asked casually. Just some calls, he said. A few things to sort out before the anniversary. Before the anniversary. The words landed differently this time. I took a sip of coffee, letting the silence stretch just enough. You've been busy lately, I added. He nodded. Just trying to get everything in order, he replied. You know how it is. I did know. Or at least, I thought I did. But now every answer felt incomplete. Every sentence felt edited. I glanced at his phone again. The screen lit up briefly. A notification. He turned it away before I could read it. That was the second thing. Not obvious. Not dramatic. Just intentional. And that was when I understood something important. This wasn't going to reveal itself all at once. There would be no confession. No sudden explanation. Whatever Arthur was hiding, it was built carefully, layer by layer, over time, which meant, if I wanted the truth, I would have to be just as careful. I finished my coffee and stood up, carrying my mug to the sink. I might go through some old things today, I said. Clean up a bit. He smiled. Take your time, he replied. No ruse. No suspicion. No concern. He thought everything was still exactly as it had always been. That I was still exactly who I had always been. Trusting. Unaware. Safe. I rinsed the cup slowly, watching the water swirl down the drain. Then I turned off the faucet. And in that quiet moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to ask him anything else. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. Because whatever truth was hiding behind that locked study door wasn't meant for me to hear. It was meant for me to miss. And I had spent 35 years doing exactly that. Missing it. Ignoring it. Trusting him instead. Not anymore. From that morning on, I stopped being his wife and started becoming his witness. Part 3. The iPad. I didn't start with questions. I started with silence. That morning after Arthur left the house, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at nothing in particular. The coffee had gone cold in my hand, but I didn't notice. For 35 years, I had trusted what I was given. Now I needed to look at what had been hidden. I didn't rush. That was important, because whatever Arthur was doing, it wasn't careless. It was deliberate. And that meant if I moved too fast, I would miss something. So I waited, until the house felt completely empty, until the quiet settled in. Only then did I go upstairs. Arthur's study door was still closed, locked as always. I stood there for a moment, my hand hovering near the handle. Not to open it, but just to feel how solid it was. How final. Whatever answers were inside that room, they weren't meant for me. But maybe they didn't need to be. I turned away and went to the hallway closet instead. Inside, tucked behind old photo albums and a box of winter scarves, was something Arthur had forgotten years ago. An old iPad. It was outdated, slightly scratched. The kind of device people replace and never think about again. Except Arthur had never logged out of it. I knew that because I was the one who helped him set it up. Back when passwords were simple. Back when nothing needed to be hidden. I brought it downstairs and sat at the dining table. For a moment I just looked at it. This small, ordinary thing. And yet it felt like a door. Not locked. Not protected. Just waiting. I pressed the power button. The screen flickered to life. Still connected. Still synced. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel guilty. I felt focused. The email app opened slowly. At first, everything looked normal. Work messages. Newsletters. Receipts. The kind of clutter that builds up over time. But then I saw it. A name I didn't recognize. Not saved. Just an email address. No profile picture. No signature. Just a thread. Recent. Too recent. I stared at it for a few seconds before opening it. Because once I did, there would be no going back to what I thought my life was. I tapped the screen. The conversation unfolded in front of me. Short messages. Careful wording. Nothing emotional. Nothing obvious, but there was something underneath it. Something precise. Like two people who didn't need to explain themselves. They already understood the plan. Timing still works, one message read. We'll finalize after the event. Another. The event. I didn't need to guess which one. My hand tightened slightly around the edge of the table. I kept reading. There were attachments, documents, bank confirmations, numbers, large numbers, transfers labeled in ways that sounded harmless, charitable allocation, educational support, property preparation. I almost smiled at that. Almost. Because I had believed those words. Every single month, every single explanation. I scrolled further, and then I saw something that made me stop completely. A name. Not in the email header. Not in the subject line. Inside one of the documents. A recipient. A beneficiary. The name meant nothing to me at first. Just another stranger. Until I saw the photo attached below it. A young man, early 20s, standing outside what looked like a university building. Smiling. Confident. Familiar. Too familiar. I leaned closer to the screen, and that's when it clicked. Arthur had introduced him to me 2 years ago. At a small dinner. He had called him a distant nephew. Said he was helping him with tuition. Said the boy had no one else. I remembered how proud Arthur had sounded. How generous. How kind. I looked back at the screen. At the transfers. At the consistency. At the pattern. This wasn't occasional help. This wasn't charity. This was something structured. Something ongoing. Something planned. I didn't jump to conclusions. Not yet. That would have been too easy. Instead, I took a breath and kept going. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just about money. And it definitely wasn't just about one email. It was bigger, more careful, more intentional. And for the first time since that night in the hallway, I felt it clearly. Not confusion, not fear. Understanding. Slow, cold, unavoidable. I set the iPad down gently on the table. Not because I was done, but because I needed a moment to think. To connect what I had just seen with everything I had ignored for years. The late business trips. The quiet phone calls. The locked study. The careful distance that had grown between us without me ever questioning it. None of it was random. None of it was recent. This had been built over time. Piece by piece. Right in front of me. And I had never seen it. Not because it was invisible, but because I had never thought to look. I picked up the iPad again. And this time, I didn't hesitate. Because now I wasn't searching for answers. I was confirming them. And something told me, this was only the beginning. Part 4. The second life. I didn't stop at the email. That would have been too simple. Too convenient. If there was one thing I had learned after 35 years of marriage, it was this: Arthur never did anything halfway. So if there was one thread, there had to be more. I went back to the iPad. This time I wasn't just reading. I was tracing. Dates. Locations. Patterns. The emails alone weren't enough to tell the whole story, but they pointed somewhere. And I followed. There were calendar entries. Subtle ones. Nothing labeled clearly. Just blocks of time marked as meetings or out of town. I cross-referenced them with something I knew by heart. Our life. Anniversaries. Holidays. Family events. The days he said he had to travel. The days he missed dinner. The days he told me, I'll make it up to you. First it looked random. Until it didn't. Because once I aligned the dates, a pattern emerged. Every month. Same week. Same 2 or 3 days. Consistent. Predictable. Intentional. I opened the browser history next. Most of it had been cleared. Of course it had. But not everything. People forget small things. Tiny details that don't seem important. Until they are. There were location searches. Directions. Repeated. From our home in Connecticut to the same address in New York. Over and over again. My fingers hovered over the screen. I stared at that address longer than I should have. Because something in me already knew. This wasn't business. This wasn't charity. This wasn't anything he had ever told me. I copied the address. Opened a new tab. And searched. The image loaded slowly. A house. 2 stories. White siding. A small front porch with a swing. Neat lawn. Warm. Lived in. Not temporary. Not rented. A home. I felt something shift inside my chest. Not sharp. Not sudden. Just heavy. Like a truth settling into place. I clicked on the property details. Ownership records. Public information. Easy to access if you knew where to look. The house wasn't in Arthur's name. Of course it wasn't. That would have been too obvious. But the name it was under, I had seen it before. In the email. The beneficiary. The same one tied to the transfers. I scrolled further. Photos. Not professional. Not staged. Personal. Uploaded somewhere public enough to be found. A woman. Mid-40s. Dark hair. Standing on that same porch. Smiling. Comfortable. Like she belonged there. And then, more photos. The same woman. Standing next to Arthur. Closer than strangers. Closer than colleagues. Closer than anything that could be explained away. I didn't react. I didn't move. I just kept looking. Because the worst part wasn't the woman. It wasn't even the house. It was what came next. 2 young adults. A boy and a girl. Maybe 2022. Standing between them. Laughing. Relaxed. Natural. Like they had done it 1,000 times before. Like this wasn't new. Like this wasn't hidden. Like this was normal. The boy. I leaned closer to the screen. My breath slowed. My hands went still. I had seen that face before. Not just once. Not just in passing. At my table. In my home. Arthur's distant nephew. The one he said needed help. The one I had welcomed without question. The one I had defended when others asked too many questions. I stared at the image. At the way Arthur's hand rested on his shoulder. Not formal. Not distant. Familiar. Instinctive. Paternal. And that's when it became clear. Not as a guess. Not as a theory. As fact. That wasn't his nephew. That was his son. The realization didn't hit me all at once. It unfolded. Slowly. Piece by piece. Like everything else. The money. The transfers. The visits. The timing. The lies. All of it leading here. Not an affair. Not a mistake. A second life. Built carefully. Maintained consistently. Protected completely. I sat back in my chair, the iPad still in my hands. The room felt quiet. Too quiet. Like the house itself was waiting for me to react. But I didn't. Not the way people expect. No tears. No anger. No disbelief. Because somewhere deep down, I had already crossed that line. The one between not knowing and knowing. This was just confirmation. I looked at the photo one last time. At the 4 of them standing together. A complete picture. A complete family. And I realized something that settled deeper than anything else. For 35 years, I hadn't been replaced. I had been divided. There wasn't one version of Arthur. There were 2. And I had only ever known half of him. I locked the screen, set the iPad down, and sat there in silence. Not broken. Not lost. Just clear. Because now, for the first time since that night, I wasn't asking what was happening. I knew. And that changed everything. From that moment on, this wasn't about discovering the truth anymore. It was about deciding what to do with it. Part 5. The pattern I ignored. I didn't look at the iPad again that day. I didn't need to, because once you see the truth clearly, you don't need more proof. You need perspective. I spent the rest of the afternoon sitting in the living room, staring at the garden Arthur and I had planted years ago. Roses along the fence. White lilies near the walkway. He used to tell people we built it together. That every flower had a story. What he never mentioned was how many of those days he hadn't actually been there. I started thinking back. Not emotionally. Not like someone reliving memories. But like someone reviewing evidence. Carefully. Objectively. Piece by piece. The business trips that always seemed to come at the same time every month. The weekends he said he needed space to think. The phone calls he used to take outside even in the cold. At the time I had explanations for all of it. Good ones. Reasonable ones. Because that's what trust does. It fills in the gaps. protects the version of reality you want to believe, until it can't anymore. I stood up and walked slowly to the bookshelf. There were photo albums there, dozens of them, 35 years of a life I thought I understood. I pulled one down at random, flipped it open. Vacations, birthdays, anniversaries. Arthur was in almost every photo, smiling, present, reliable. Except now, I wasn't seeing what was there. I was seeing what was missing. There were gaps, small ones, moments where he wasn't in the frame, times when I had taken pictures alone, or with friends, or with family, and at the time I had never questioned it. He had to step away. He wasn't feeling well. He'll join us later. Simple explanations, easy to accept. Now they felt constructed, like placeholders for something I wasn't supposed to notice. I closed the album slowly, set it back in its place, and that's when another memory surfaced, clearer than the others. 2 years ago, that dinner, the one where Arthur introduced his nephew. I remembered how the boy looked at him, not with admiration, not with distance, but with something deeper, recognition, comfort, the kind that doesn't need to be explained. And Arthur had looked proud, not politely proud, not the way you act around extended family, but genuinely, effortlessly, like it was second nature. I had noticed it then, just for a second, a small quiet thought in the back of my mind. Something didn't feel right, but I dismissed it, because that's what I had been trained to do. Ignore discomfort, preserve peace, protect the image. I walked back to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. That surprised me, because by now, most people would be falling apart, crying, yelling, demanding answers. But I wasn't most people, and this wasn't just betrayal. This was design, careful, long-term, deliberate, and that changed everything, because you can forgive a mistake. You can even forgive a moment of weakness. But this wasn't a moment. This was a structure, built over years, maintained with intention, protected with lies. I took a sip of water and set the glass down, and for the first time since that night, I asked myself the only question that mattered. Not why, not how, but what now? The answer came faster than I expected. Clear, simple, final. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. I wasn't going to give him the chance to explain, or lie, or twist the truth into something softer, because I already knew what the truth looked like. I had seen it, and more importantly, I had seen how long it had existed without me. This wasn't something I could talk through. This wasn't something I could fix. And it definitely wasn't something I could forgive. Forgiveness requires honesty, and there had been none. Not for 35 years. I leaned against the counter, looking out at the driveway. Arthur would be home in a few hours. He would walk through that door, smile, ask about my day, maybe mention the anniversary plans, as if everything was still intact, as if I was still the same woman who believed him without question. But I wasn't. That version of me had ended sometime between 2:13 a.m. and a glowing screen in my dining room. What stood here now was someone else, someone who understood, someone who remembered, someone who paid attention. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and stopped at a name I hadn't called in years. A lawyer. A good one. Careful one. I didn't press call. Not yet. Instead, I locked the screen and set the phone down beside me, because this wasn't about acting quickly. It was about acting correctly. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't reacting to Arthur. I was thinking ahead of him, planning, quietly, precisely, because if he had spent years building a second life behind my back, then I would take my time, ending the one he thought he still had, and I would do it without warning, without emotion, without giving him a single chance to prepare. Because some betrayals don't deserve closure, they deserve consequences. Part 6. The lawyer. I waited 2 days before making the call, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to be clear. Clear about what I knew, and even clearer about what I needed to do next. On the third morning after Arthur left the house, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Daniel Reed. He had been our lawyer once. Back when our meant something. Back when everything we built had both our names on it. He answered on the second ring. Martha, he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. It's been a while. It has, I replied calmly. I need to see you. There was a brief pause. Not hesitation. Recognition. Of course, he said. Come in this afternoon. I didn't explain. Not over the phone. Some conversations require a room, a door, and the right kind of silence. His office hadn't changed. Dark wood shelves, neatly stacked files, the quiet hum of professionalism that made everything feel contained, controlled, safe. Daniel stood as I walked in. We didn't hug. We didn't pretend this was a casual visit. He knew better. You look well, he said. I am, I replied. That was enough. He gestured for me to sit. Tell me what's going on. I didn't start with emotion. I started with facts. The phone call, the email, the transfers, the house in New York, the second family. I said it all the same way I had processed it, without raising my voice, without pausing, without needing him to react. And to his credit, he didn't interrupt. He just listened, carefully. When I finished, the room went quiet. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his fingers pressed together. How long have you known? He asked. 3 days, I said. And Arthur doesn't know that you know? No, he nodded slowly. That's good. Not comforting. Not sympathetic. Just strategic. Then we still have time, he added. Time. The word landed differently now. Not something to endure. Something to use. I need to understand everything, I said. Every account. Every asset. Everything in his name and mine. Daniel reached for a file drawer beside him. Then let's start there. What he showed me over the next hour was worse than anything I had found on the iPad. Not louder, not more dramatic, just deeper, more precise, more dangerous. Arthur hadn't just been hiding money. He had been moving it, carefully, legally enough to avoid suspicion, but strategically enough to shift control. There were transfers tied to shell allocations, small enough individually to seem harmless, but consistent, layered, purposeful. And then Daniel opened a document that made everything else fall into place. Our home, he said quietly. I felt my posture shift. What about it? He turned the screen toward me. There it was. The property title. Familiar. Solid. Something I had always believed was untouchable. Arthur refinanced part of the house, Daniel continued. 6 months ago. I stared at the document. Without me. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He didn't need to, because the silence said enough. He used a joint authorization clause, Daniel explained. One that was signed years ago, back when both of you trusted each other completely. I almost smiled. Of course he did. Of course he used something I had signed without question, something I had believed was harmless. He leveraged that to access a line of credit, Daniel added. Not the full value, but enough. Where did the money go? I asked. Daniel didn't need to check. Based on what you've told me, he tapped the folder lightly. Most likely into the property in New York. I leaned back in my chair. Not shocked, not surprised, just aligned. Everything fit now. The transfers, the timing, the anniversary. It wasn't just about hiding a second life. It was about funding it with my life. And there's more, Daniel said. He opened another file. Arthur has also made adjustments to his retirement accounts. Not withdrawals but reallocations. Explain. He's positioning assets to limit exposure in the event of a legal dispute, Daniel said. Which means one thing. He's planning for something, I finished. Daniel met my eyes. Yes. The room went quiet again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was sharp, focused. Because now, for the first time since this started, I wasn't catching up to Arthur. I was standing level with him. And maybe, just slightly ahead. What are my options? I asked. Daniel didn't hesitate. We move first. 2 words. Simple. Decisive. We file before he does, he continued. We secure your position, freeze what can be frozen, and limit his ability to move anything else. And if I wait? I asked. Daniel's expression didn't change. Then you give him time to disappear what's left. I nodded once. That was all I needed. No hesitation. No second guessing. Because this wasn't about saving anything. There was nothing left to save. This was about control. And control was something Arthur thought he had. Start the process, I said. Daniel studied me for a moment. Not questioning. Just confirming. Are you sure? I held his gaze. Calm. Steady. Certain. I've never been more sure of anything. He nodded. Then we begin today. When I walked out of his office, the air felt different. Not lighter. Not heavier. Just clearer. For 35 years, I had lived inside a version of reality that Arthur had carefully maintained. Now I could see the structure behind it, the design, the intention, and more importantly, the weakness. Because every plan, no matter how careful, has a point where it can break. Arthur just didn't know yet. I had already found his. Part 7 Quiet Control. I didn't go home right away. After leaving Daniel's office, I sat in my car for a few minutes, hands resting lightly on the steering wheel, watching people pass by as if nothing in the world had changed. But everything had. Not outside. Inside. For the first time in 35 years, I wasn't reacting to my life. I was directing it. That distinction mattered. Because reacting is emotional. Directing is strategic. And what came next required strategy. Not anger. Not confrontation. Precision. I started the engine and drove home slowly, taking the longer route without realizing it. Not to delay, but to think. To map out the next steps. 'Cause Daniel was right. We didn't have time to waste. But we also couldn't afford to move carelessly. Arthur had built his second life quietly, carefully, and if I wanted to dismantle it, I had to be even more careful than he was. The house looked the same when I pulled into the driveway. Peaceful. Still. Exactly as it had always been. That was the illusion. The one I had lived inside for decades. I walked in, set my keys down, and moved through the house with the same calm routine Arthur expected. Nothing rushed. Nothing out of place. Because the most important part of this phase was that he suspected nothing. I went straight to my desk, opened my laptop, and began. Daniel had already sent over preliminary documents, secure links, temporary access, everything structured in a way that left no trace on shared accounts. That was the first rule now. Nothing Arthur could see, nothing he could track, nothing that would alert him. I logged in, reviewed each account one by one, joint checking, savings, retirement, investment allocations, everything we had built over the years, everything I had assumed was stable, permanent, safe. It wasn't. Not anymore. I followed Daniel's instructions carefully, not questioning, not hesitating. First we placed alerts, quiet ones. Any movement above a certain threshold would trigger a notification. Not to Arthur, to me. Then came the second step. Restrictions. Limited but strategic. We didn't freeze everything. That would have been too obvious, too aggressive. Instead we slowed it down, added friction, required additional authorization layers, subtle changes, the kind most people don't notice, until they try to move something quickly. Arthur wouldn't see it immediately, but when he did, it would already be too late. I moved on to the next phase, the accounts that weren't fully joined, the ones Daniel had flagged as vulnerable, funds Arthur had repositioned, shifted, partially concealed. Those required a different approach. Not blocking, redirecting. We created new pathways, legal ones, protected ones, trust structures tied to my name, my authority, assets that could no longer be quietly moved without my involvement. Every step was documented, every change was controlled, not rushed, not emotional, just exact. By the time I finished, the light outside had started to fade. Hours had passed, but it didn't feel like time. It felt like alignment, like pieces falling into place. I closed the laptop and sat back in my chair. For a moment, I let the silence settle. And that's when I noticed something unexpected. I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't shaken. Was calm. Not the kind of calm that comes from denial, the kind that comes from clarity, because now I understood the structure, not just of Arthur's deception, but of his assumptions. He believed I was unaware, passive, predictable, someone who would react emotionally if she ever found out, someone he could manage, control, delay. That belief was his greatest weakness. The sound of the front door opening pulled me out of my thoughts. Arthur was home, right on time. I didn't move, didn't rush to greet him, didn't adjust my posture. I simply closed the laptop and waited. His footsteps echoed through the hallway. Familiar. Measured. Unchanged. Martha, he called. In here, I replied evenly. He walked into the room, loosening his tie as he smiled. Long day, he said. I nodded. Same here. That was all. No tensión. No hesitación. Just conversation. Surface level. Controlled. Exactly what he expected. He stepped closer, placing his briefcase down beside the desk. You've been quiet today, he added. Just catching up on things, I said. Not a lie. Not the full truth. Just enough. He studied me for a moment, briefly, then nodded. Good, he said. We've got a lot coming up. The anniversary. I met his eyes. Yeah, I replied softly. We do. That night we had dinner together, at the same table, in the same seats, eating the same meals we had shared for years. And for the first time, I saw everything differently, not as a wife, but as an observer. Arthur checked his phone twice during dinner. Subtle, quick, but I noticed. Of course I did. Now I noticed everything. The pauses, the timing, the slight shift in his tone when certain topics came up. Small things, insignificant on their own, but together, they told a story, and I was finally reading it. After dinner, he went to his study, locked the door behind him, just like always. I didn't follow. I didn't need to, because whatever he was doing in there was already accounted for, already contained, already limited. I cleaned the kitchen slowly, methodically, then turned off the lights and stood for a moment in the quiet, listening, not to him, but to myself, to the steady, controlled rhythm of something new, not fear, not doubt, control, real control, the kind I hadn't realized I had lost, until now. When I went upstairs that night, I didn't feel like I was returning to the same life, 'cause I wasn't. Arthur still believed he was in charge of everything, his plans, his money, his timing, his secrets, but that was no longer true, because while he was still building his second life, I had already started closing the doors on this one, quietly, carefully, completely, and he hadn't noticed a thing. Not yet. Part 8. The anniversary. I was the one who suggested the celebration. That was important, because if Arthur had planned it, it would have been controlled, carefully managed, predictable, but this needed to look like my idea, my effort, my love. I was thinking, I said one evening, setting down my glass of wine, maybe we should do something bigger this year. Arthur looked up, slightly surprised. For the anniversary? He asked. I nodded. 35 years, I said. That's not something you celebrate quietly. He smiled. That familiar, easy smile I had trusted for decades. You're right, he said. We should do something special. Special. I almost repeated the word, but instead I just smiled back. Yes, I said. Something people will remember. From that moment on, everything moved forward exactly as I needed it to. The guest list came first. Friends, neighbors, business partners, people who knew Arthur, people who respected him, people who believed in the version of him he had carefully built. I invited all of them, personally, carefully, making sure each invitation felt genuine, warm, unquestioned. And then, I added one more name, the nephew. I didn't hesitate. I didn't second guess it. I simply included him. Same tone, same warmth, same expectation. Arthur didn't question it when I mentioned it casually over breakfast. I thought it would be nice if he came, I said. He's part of the family, isn't he? Arthur paused for half a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. Then he nodded. Of course, he said. He'd like that. I held his gaze just long enough. Not challenging, not accusing, just present. Good, I replied. The venue was the next step. Arthur suggested a hotel ballroom. Something polished, public, controlled. I agreed. Of course I did. Because what he didn't realize was, public worked in my favor. The more people there were, the less room there would be for him to escape. The planning became my routine. Menus, seating arrangements, decorations, music. Every detail was handled with care, with precision, with intention. Because this wasn't just a celebration, it was a stage. And every stage needs the right setup, the right timing, the right audience. At the same time, I continued working quietly behind the scenes. With Daniel, the filings were in progress. Not submitted yet, but ready. Every document prepared, every clause reviewed, every asset accounted for. All we needed was the right moment. The recording came last. Not because it was difficult, but because it required patience. I didn't confront Arthur about the call. I didn't bring it up again. I simply waited. And one night, when he stepped into his study and closed the door behind him, I was ready. The device was small, hidden, placed carefully where it wouldn't be noticed. Not invasive, not obvious, just enough, just in case. And just like before, he spoke, softly, carefully, to the same person, confirming timelines, confirming money, confirming plans, the anniversary, everything aligned. I didn't listen to it right away. I didn't need to, because I already knew what it would say. But knowing it was there, that mattered. Because truth is more powerful when it can't be denied. The days passed quickly after that. Arthur became more relaxed, more confident, as if everything was finally falling into place for him. I noticed the way he checked his phone less often, the way he smiled more easily, the way he spoke about the future, without hesitation. He thought he was close to finishing whatever plan he had built. He wasn't wrong, just not in the way he imagined. The night before the anniversary, I stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom. The dress was simple, elegant, the kind he always said he liked. I adjusted the fabric slightly and studied my reflection. Same woman, same face, same life, but not the same story. Not anymore. Arthur stepped in behind me, placing his hands lightly on my shoulders. You look beautiful, he said. I met his eyes in the mirror, and for the first time, I didn't look for truth in them. I didn't look for honesty. I just observed. Thank you, I said. He smiled, leaning in slightly, as if this were just another ordinary moment, another normal night, another version of a life that had never really existed the way I thought it did. Tomorrow's going to be perfect, he added. I held his gaze for a second longer, then smiled softly. Yes, I said. It will be. That night I slept. Not deeply, not peacefully, but steadily, because there was nothing left to figure out, nothing left to question. Everything was already in place. The people, the evidence, the timing, the truth, all waiting. The morning of the anniversary arrived quietly. Sunlight through the curtains. The same house, the same routine. Arthur moved through it with confidence, ease, control. He had no idea. Not about the documents, not about the accounts, not about the recording, not about what was waiting for him later that evening. He believed this day would mark something permanent, a new beginning, a reward for everything he had built in secret. And in a way, he was right, because by the end of that night, everything would change, just not in his favor. Part 9. The reveal. The ballroom was already full when we arrived. Soft music, low conversations, glasses clinking gently under warm golden light. Everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to. Elegant, refined, perfect. Arthur walked beside me, one hand resting lightly at my back, greeting guests with that same confident ease I had seen for decades. Smiles, handshakes, laughter. He was in his element, and everyone believed it. 35 years, I heard someone say. That's incredible. Arthur nodded modestly. We've been lucky, he replied. Lucky. I almost repeated the word, but instead I just smiled. I scanned the room slowly. Friends, colleagues, neighbors, every person who had ever respected him, every person who believed in the version of our marriage he had carefully performed. And then, I saw him, standing near the back. The nephew, calm, composed, unaware. And beside him, a woman, mid-40s, dark hair, the same woman from the photos. She wasn't meant to be there, not officially, but she was, watching, waiting, just like me. Our eyes didn't meet. Not yet. There would be time for that. The program moved forward smoothly. Dinner, toasts, soft music filling the spaces between conversations. Arthur grew more relaxed with every passing minute, more confident, more certain, because to him, everything was working, everything was under control. Then came the speech. Arthur stepped up onto the small stage, adjusting his jacket as the room quieted. He looked out at the crowd, at the people who admired him, at the life he had built in front of them, and then he looked at me, smiling, warm, convincing. 35 years ago, he began, I married the most incredible woman I've ever known. Soft laughter, nods of agreement, people leaned in, listening, believing. He spoke about love, commitment, sacrifice, the way we had grown together, the way we had built everything side by side. Every word carefully chosen, every sentence practiced. Perfect. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have believed him. When he finished, the room filled with applause. Warm, genuine, earned. At least that's what they thought. Arthur stepped down from the stage, returning to my side. He leaned closer, his voice low. Your turn, he said softly. I nodded and stood. The room quieted again as I walked toward the stage. Not rushed, not hesitant, just steady. Each step measured, each breath controlled. I reached the microphone and turned to face the room. For a moment, I said nothing. I just looked at them, at the faces, the expectations, the belief, and then I began. 35 years is a long time, I said calmly. My voice carried clearly across the room. Nos checking, nos tran. Just clarity. It's long enough to build a life. A pause. Long enough to build trust. Another pause. Long enough to believe you know someone completely. The room was still. Listening. Waiting. I let the silence stretch just enough. Then continued. But sometimes, I said, it's also long enough to be wrong. A subtle shift moved through the crowd. Not confusion yet. Just attention. I turned slightly, nodded toward the technician near the side of the room. Before tonight, I added, I prepared something. Arthur's expression didn't change. Not yet. He assumed it was a video. Memories. Photos. The story we had lived. And in a way, he was right. The screen behind me lit up. First, it looked exactly like what everyone expected. Old photos. Younger versions of us. Smiling. Laughing. Building something together. Soft music played in the background. Familiar. Comforting. The room relaxed. People smiled. Arthur exhaled slightly beside me. Everything was still under control. Then the images changed. Subtly at first. Barely noticeable. Different locations. Different dates. Arthur. But not with me. The music didn't stop. But the room did. Faces shifted. Confusion. Recognition. Discomfort. And then, the next image appeared. Arthur. Standing beside the woman from the back of the room. Closer than anyone could explain. Closer than anyone could ignore. The music cut out. Silence. Heavy. Immediate. I didn't look at Arthur. I didn't need to, because I could feel it. The moment everything broke. The images continued. The house. The transfers. Documents. Dates. Patterns. And finally, the recording. His voice filled the room. Clear. Undeniable. Don't worry. She doesn't suspect anything. A pause. After the anniversary, the money will be ours. No music. No distraction. Just truth. Raw. Exposed. Complete. The room didn't erupt. Didn't need to, because silence was louder. Arthur stepped forward. Martha, he started. I raised my hand slightly, not aggressively, just enough, and he stopped. That was new, for both of us. I turned back to the room, calm, composed, finished. Tonight, I said, was never about celebrating what we had. A pause. It was about showing what was hidden. I let the words settle, then added quietly, and now nothing is. No anger, no tears, no explanation, because none of it was necessary. The truth had already done everything I needed it to do. I stepped away from the microphone, and for the first time in 35 years, I walked past Arthur, without stopping. Part 10. The collapse for a moment. No one moved. The room remained frozen in that heavy, suffocating silence. Not confusion anymore. Not doubt. Understanding. Clear. Immediate. Irreversible. Arthur stood just a few feet behind me. I could feel his presence shift. The confidence he had carried all evening. Gone. Replaced by something else. Something unsteady. Martha, he said again, his voice tighter now. I didn't turn around. I didn't acknowledge him, because this moment wasn't his anymore. A few guests began to step back. Not dramatically, not loudly, just enough. Enough to create space. Distance. The kind people instinctively put between themselves and something they no longer understand, or no longer want to be associated with. I walked calmly down from the stage. Not toward Arthur. Past him. Each step steady. Measured. Final. He reached out, his hand brushing lightly against my arm. Martha, wait, he said lower now. Urgent. I stopped, not because he asked, but because I had something left to say. I turned slightly, just enough to face him. Close. I could see it clearly now. The cracks. The calculation slipping. The control he thought he had. Breaking. This isn't what you think, he said quickly. I held his gaze. Calm. Unmoved. You're right, I replied quietly. It's exactly what I know. He opened his mouth to speak again, to explain, to reshape, to do what he had done for years. But this time, there was nothing left to work with, because truth, when exposed completely, doesn't leave room for interpretation. A man stepped forward from the side of the room, calm, professional, measured. Daniel. Arthur turned, confusion flashing across his face. Arthur Hale, Daniel said evenly. I represent Mrs. Hale. The words landed harder than anything else that night. Not emotional, not dramatic, just official, final. Arthur's expression shifted again, from confusion to realization. What is this? He asked. No one answered immediately, because the answer was already unfolding. Daniel handed him a folder. Clean, organized, prepared. Inside, you'll find notice of immediate legal action, Daniel continued, including a filed petition for divorce and a temporary financial restraining order. Arthur didn't take the folder right away. He stared at it, as if not touching it would somehow delay what it meant. It was filed 2 hours ago, Daniel added. There it was. The timing. Precise. Controlled. Unavoidable. Arthur finally took the folder, opened it, flipped through the pages quickly, too quickly to process, but enough to understand. His posture changed. Not completely, but enough. A slight shift in his shoulders, a tightening in his jaw. Freezing assets? He said, his voice lower now. Yes, Daniel replied. Joint accounts, investment movements, property leverage, temporarily restricted pending review. Arthur looked up. At me. Not angry. Not yet. Something else. Something closer to disbelief. You planned this, he said. I didn't respond immediately. I let the silence settle between us, then answered simply, yes. Around us, the room had begun to change. Not chaotic, not loud, but fractured. Guests speaking in hushed tones. Some leaving quietly, others watching, unable to look away. The illusion was gone. Completely. There was no version of this night that could be repaired. And the house? Arthur asked, his voice tightening slightly. Daniel answered before I could. Any further action against the property is now restricted, he said, including refinancing, equity transfers, or secondary claims. Arthur's grip on the folder tightened. And my accounts? Under review, Daniel replied. Any irregular movement will be investigated. There it was. Not just exposure. Containment. Everything he had built. Slowing. Stopping. Closing. Arthur looked back at me. For the first time that night. Really looked. Not as a husband. Not as someone in control. But as someone who had just realized. He was no longer ahead. You didn't say anything, he said quietly. I met his eyes. No, irraplia. I didn't. A pause. Because I was listening. Behind him I could see movement. The young man, the one he had introduced as his nephew, standing frozen. The woman beside him, no longer composed. No, longer hidden. Exposed in a way neither of them had expected. Arthur followed my gaze. Just for a second. And that was enough. Because now, everything was visible. To everyone. This isn't over, he said, his voice lower, sharper now. I nodded slightly. I know, I said. And that's exactly the point. I turned away. Not waiting for another response. Not giving him another moment. Because this part was finished. As I walked toward the exit, the noise behind me began to return. Soft at first, then louder. Fragments of conversation. Shock. Speculation. Judgment. But none of it reached me. Not anymore. Because everything that mattered had already been done. At the doors I paused for just a second. Not to look back. Not to reconsider. Just to breathe. Steady. Clear. Complete. Then I stepped outside. And let the night close behind me. Part 11. The aftermath. The air outside felt colder than I expected. Not sharp. Not biting. Just real. For a moment I stood there on the steps of the hotel, the soft glow from inside spilling out behind me, fading as the doors closed. Everything that had just happened was already over. Inside that room people were still talking, still trying to piece it together, still reacting. But I wasn't. Not anymore. Because I had already moved past the moment they were just beginning to understand. I walked slowly toward my car. Each step quiet, measured, unrushed. For 35 years, my life had been built around someone else's decisions. His plans, his timing, his version of the truth. Tonight, that ended. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. A message from Daniel. Short, precise. It's done. Everything is secured. I read it once, then locked the screen. No relief. No celebration. Just confirmation. I opened the car door and sat down, closing it gently behind me. For a moment I didn't start the engine. I just sat there, hands resting on the wheel, looking straight ahead. The silence wasn't empty. It was full. Full of everything that no longer belonged to me. The lies, the years, the version of my life that had quietly ended without me realizing it. Until now, my hand moved slowly, almost automatically, to my left, to the ring. 35 years. A simple band, worn every day, through every version of who I thought we were. I turned it slightly, feeling the familiar weight, the smooth edge, the history, and then, without hesitation, I slid it off. Part 12. The release. I didn't look at it right away. I just held it in my hand, for a few seconds, maybe longer. Long enough to understand something clearly. That ring was never the problem. The promise behind it was, and that promise had been broken long before tonight. There was a half-empty glass of champagne sitting in the cup holder, left there from earlier, unfinished, forgotten. I looked at it, then at the ring, and without overthinking, I dropped it in. A soft sound, barely noticeable, but final. I started the engine. The car came to life quietly, the dashboard lighting up in front of me. For a second I caught my reflection in the glass. Same face, same eyes, but something was different. Not stronger, Not harder, just clearer. I pulled out of the parking lot slowly. No rus. No destination programmed. Just movement. Forward. The roads were mostly empty. Late enough that the world had settled. Streetlights stretching out in long, quiet lines. The kind of night where everything feels suspended. Pause between what was and what comes next. I didn't turn toward home. Not immediately. Instead, I drove. Out of the city. Past the familiar streets. Past the places that had once meant something. Until the air changed. Until the silence deepened. Until I could hear something else. The ocean. I parked near the shoreline and stepped out. The wind was stronger here. Cool. Steady. Unapologetic. I walked toward the water slowly. The sound of the waves growing louder with each step. Rhythmic. Unchanging. Real. The horizon was just beginning to lighten. A faint line of soft color stretching across the edge of the world. Morning. Not fully there yet. But coming. I stood there looking out at the water. At something endless. Uncontrolled. Unowned. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt something unfamiliar. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even relief. Freedom. Not the kind people talk about. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet. Certain. Meaning. Behind me, somewhere far away, a life had collapsed. A man had lost control. A truth had been exposed. But none of that followed me here. Because I hadn't just walked away from him. I had walked back to myself. The waves moved steadily against the shore. Uninterrupted. Unchanged. And I realized something as I stood there. Arthur thought I was asleep. That night. In that hallway. He thought I didn't see. Didn't hear. Didn't understand. But he was wrong. I had been awake the entire time. And now, I was finally free.